Yesterday, it was a question mark. Today, it's an exclamation point. Iowa State loses the third straight basketball game, and it's mayhem. I am in complete shambles. I don't know what to do today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. It's greatly appreciated. Wherever you're watching or listening, be sure to subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. All men's basketball today. What happened against Kansas? Is this now panic button time? I mean, 3 straight losses, and then finally, is this a tournament team? I don't know. We'll get to it in the third segment. Before we get that far, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Let's just dive right on into it. Let's just cut to the chase here because this one hurt. I mean, they all hurt, honestly. You guys know this by now. Iowa State loses 52-69 to Kansas on the road at Allen Fieldhouse. A number 8 Iowa State now to a number 16 Kansas, a 17-point loss in a game that literally never felt close. I mean, I think it was close with like 7 minutes into the game, 13 minutes left in the first half. Never felt close. Not even really a little bit, to be completely honest. First half, abysmal, ugly, atrocious. Second half, marginally better, I guess. Still horrific. Absolutely almost unacceptable is how I would put it. This team right now is performing at an all-time low. 3 straight losses, in the last 3. Wow. Who could have thought? Then you go back. How far back do you want to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lost 4 of your last 6. You lost 3 of your last 4, 3 of your last 5, 4 of your last 6. Not good. Really not good. I am in shock a little bit. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this in a second, because this is what we're talking about right now is this game, but I do feel like things are accumulating a little bit. That'll be second segment. Don't worry. As for this one, Iowa State shoots a I'm running out of words for like bad performances. But let's just go with an abysmal 3 of 21 from beyond the arc. I know they were 1 of 15 at one point for the game. That makes 14.3%. I will note they scored 19 points in the first half. That is the lowest under a TJ Otzelberger. 1 of 12 from 3 in the first half. Overall, shot 55% from the free throw line, shot 30.6% from the field. Horrible offensive performance. It really was. I went back and looked at kind of this losing streak that we're on. How have we shot percentage-wise in these? Because it's felt horrible. This one, our worst performance at 30.6, then Kansas State 36.5 from the field, and Arizona 43.1, which we'll talk about that game more in a second, as I said. This is getting hard to watch. It's going off the rails, which is, like I said, a second segment thing, but it's so hard for me to not bring it up because of just like what is going on here. This is a Kansas team that we just defeated. I don't know how many days ago that was. A couple games ago, though, by 17. Didn't even realize that. So the complete opposite. You win by 17, and then you go through a few games, you go through a little bit of a gauntlet, and you end up losing by 17. Is that home field advantage? Home court advantage? Is that what that's worth in the Iowa State Kansas games here? 17 points? I doubt it. The crazy thing is, too, the Kansas game was the first game Iowa State played without Milan, which is going to be a major talking point the rest of this episode. Obviously not for now, because we're talking about this game. You get absolutely clobbered in a game where you shoot 30% from the floor. Not great. 14% from beyond the arc. Really not good. 55% from the line. Not good there. 17 offensive rebounds. Okay. I guess when you shoot 30%, when you have over 43 opportunities to get rebounds and you come away with 17 of them. Okay. I guess it's a fair number. For those of you listening, I went like, what? I'm sorry for those of you who had to watch that, but I have to convey my points here. Who scored in this game? 3 players with 11 each. I'm amazed we even did that. Joshua Jefferson, Taman Lipsey, and Keyshawn Gilbert all had 11. Steals, we had 8. Only 7 turnovers. I mean, that's fine. Does it really matter when you're only scoring 52? In the half court, this team was horrible. KU is giving them the Ben Simmons treatment. Just not guarding them. Like we were playing 3-on-5 at times. Saw no offensive movement. Or, I mean, I won't say none, but very, very little. This game was hard. It was just, and I will say, you could feel it through the TV that Allen Fieldhouse was just popping. I mean, it was just off the chain. And I mean, rightfully so. They were making 50-foot alley-oops, which was wicked. I was a huge fan of that, actually. Kind of. I mean, does that make me a bad fan? It was electric. I don't know. The point being, Kansas brought it. And it just felt like Iowa State did not. In this game, it 100% felt like Iowa State gave up. From the jump. I'm not saying they gave up halfway through. Just felt like they had no energy. It was like they didn't want to be there. Like they were scared of playing. I don't know. I'm that feels a little bit harsh, and I hate saying it. And if I'm wrong, sound off in the comments because that means we're all fired up in this together. Am I overreacting? I don't know. What's going on here? Well, I can't look at these numbers and be like, yeah, we put up good effort. Like, is it literally, is this the major problem here is that we shot 14%? I'm getting hot. Man, sweatshirt's getting hot. 14% from 3? Well, maybe if we're shooting 1 of 15, we switch up the offensive strategy a little bit. I don't know. It felt like a lot more ISO ball than necessary. I don't know. I mean, Jefferson, no hate at all. We all know how I feel about Jefferson. And honestly, all of these guys. I'm not trying to hate on anybody here. But I think he had miss layup, rebound, miss layup. I was like, what? This is not the Iowa State team we know and love. What is going on, guys? I don't know what to tell. Like that was just what? Curtis Jones had 7. Not a crazy night from him. Deshaun Jackson had 9. More points we've seen out of him, I feel like, than recently. Demarion Watson brings 2 off the bench, and No just brings 1. Nothing from Nate Heisey and nothing from Brandon Chatfield. I'm going to pull this up really quick because I feel like that's what happened last time. Yeah, nothing from Chatfield or Heisey off the bench in the last 2 games. Is it panic button time? I can't even wait for this segment. Honestly, it's coming up right after this. Looking for your tickets to the next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. So if you're finding a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So Iowa State loses to Kansas after losing to Kansas State, after losing consecutively to Arizona. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the question of the hour is the panic button am I pressing it? It's right here. See this? This is the panic button. This is my hand. Yes, I am pressing it. I said after the Kansas State game, well, we got time. We got time. We just used up the entire clock. Like watching the last, what is that, 120 minutes of, I guess, maybe the Arizona game, not the whole game, but definitely the last 80 minutes of Iowa State basketball. It's been, what is going on? Genuinely. What is happening? Shooting is at an all-time low. It appears as though effort is like somehow lacking, but they're also fighting. So I'm not trying to call out effort, but it just like looks like they're tired. I don't know if maybe that's what it is. I mean, the tough part about this is really you can't just shoot better because they're never shooting it hoping to miss. Does that make sense? Like, I can't just go into the gym and let's just say I'm an average 15% free throw shooter, which is probably lower accurate. And I can't just be like, you know what? I'm going to shoot 89% from the line today and shoot 1,000 times and make 890 of them. Like, I just can't do that. I don't know why my DNA doesn't allow me to do that. I really wish it would, but it just doesn't. So I can't just say, all right, Curtis, I need you to shoot better than 1 of 7. Go out there and make your next 8 shots. We'll give you the ball every time on offense. You just need to make 8 threes in a row. It's not that big a deal. Like, that's not how this works. So I can't be like, well, we're shooting really poorly. But this is chronic at this point. You look at the last 3 games, as I mentioned, even the Arizona game, 43%, not great. Now, I will say, more accurate to the rest of the season. But then you look at Kansas State, and you get 36%, and you get 30% here. And now this is what I wanted to say in the first segment, but I held off, and I was chill about it. But here we go. And I hate to say this. But that Arizona game absolutely defeated this team as it stands right now. It sucked everything, all the energy right out of them. And I get it. I mean, I'm not blaming them, but there just appears to be nothing left. I mean, that Kansas State game was already rough. You lose by 19 to a Kansas State team who, yes, they had momentum going into that game. And obviously Iowa State is going to be a little bit of a Kansas State Super Bowl. Okay, I get that. And then you go to Allen Fieldhouse, and this is how it goes down. You score 52 points. 52 points. That is so few points. I mean, you had 4 fast break points, 3 points come off the bench, 30 points in the paint, and 10 points off turnovers. This is not normal. This is not. What are we looking at? Like, is it time to hit the panic button? Absolutely, because I don't know what we could do. This is a team that momentum has shifted since the last time we played them, but it's like almost the same core unit. I guess maybe coaching, like how are we approaching the game is different, but Iowa State, no Milan, defeats Kansas by 17, and then you go into Allen Fieldhouse and you get whooped by 17. So is the panic button kind of going? Yeah, I'm kind of hitting it. We're kind of at that point now. Because what happens from here? Right? Well, okay, Milan shooting before the game. Great sign. Maybe coming back. Also of note, Taman, broken thumb, playing through that. So certainly something that is happening. Regardless, on top of other things. But regardless, Milan coming back could help this team. Very well could. That'll be a third segment thing. Because I think we all know the answer. If I'm hitting the panic button, is this a tournament team? I think we know the answer to that question. It's going to be more of what can this team do to become a tournament team? It's a little foreshadowing. But why is the panic button being hit right now? Why is that? Because I feel like rebounding wise, this team is not the same place they were. In the half court offense, maybe this is a rose colored glasses type of situation. I'd have to go back and rewatch every game. Basically that Milan was in and then the Kansas game. But it's getting progressively worse. It's not getting better. You scored 52 points against Kansas at home. And Kansas, or in Kansas's Fieldhouse, I guess. Now, is Kansas a good team? Yes, absolutely. 16-6, 7-4 in the conference. Same record as us in the conference. Still, it's a very good team. And they went right to Hunter Dickinson right away. Scored 14 at this point. And Zeke Mayo scored 17. I didn't even get to the box score. I should have for Kansas, but I was just so blown away by Iowa State. I'm not going to do it now. But, I mean, Kansas played really well. 50% from beyond the arc was kind of the big thing there. Not the only thing. But yeah, I don't know. This is very alarming. It feels to me like it's an energy, it's a mojo. This team's missing something. I said it yesterday. What is this team going to lean on to bounce back? When you find yourself in this hole, what did this team do really, really well that we can shoulder up into and push into that, lean into that, and do that thing really well? And then we can ride the lightning, if you will, off of that and get better. I don't know. And it really did feel like watching kind of the last half of that game, like Iowa State was just scrambling, just running around on the floor, just hoping something would go in somewhere. Iowa State needs to see a win. Iowa State needs to start seeing the ball go in the bucket. Iowa State needs to start seeing an offensive scheme that is producing points, because that's going to carry over. This is still a good defensive team, but it appears as though because they're not scoring, they're like, how do we play basketball? How do we do this? What's going on out here? Are you supposed to score or me? Like, that's how it feels. So if Iowa State can just get a win, get something rolling here. But that's not where we're at. If you never find that, if we take the team as it is now, panic button, yeah, absolutely. You go back 3 weeks, I'd be like, where even is the panic button in this vessel? Is it like under a book somewhere? Now it's like literally the only button I see. So absolutely, I'm hitting the panic button. Question is, how can they turn it around? We'll answer that coming up right after this. All right, Iowa State falls to KU 52-69. And the big question right now, after a 3-game skid, is Iowa State a tournament team? You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I should disclose that. This isn't coming from national media. This isn't coming from a Hawkeye podcast or a Kansas Jayhawks podcast. No, this is coming from an Iowa State podcast, as you can see by my decor. I would say at this point in time, technically, probably. Iowa State probably gets into the tournament. We're maybe around a 32 exit, though. I think the better question is obviously what everyone is asking then, what you guys want to hear is, can this be a tournament team? Can this be a Final Four team? Can this be a national championship contender? Well, I know at some point this season, I certainly thought that. Certainly thought this is the first time we break that kind of Elite 8 ceiling, Sweet 16 ceiling. All right. We get into that Elite 8 Final Four national championship title-esque area. Then I would say that the train went off the rails, but you know how trains kind of have those like iron wheels kind of thing? The wheels like came off the train. Genuinely, like the whole thing, it's like Polar Express skidding across the ice, but no wheels, no Tom Hanks on the ceiling. No, it's literally just on the ice, just sliding with no control at this point. And how are they going to get back on track? Well, as I said, you need to get a win of some kind, be it physical, moral, emotional, whatever. Find it somewhere. Take the boys out for bowling if you have to, TJ. Find a win. Find something. They need it. 3 games in a row, losses, and the Arizona one was horrific. Tragic. And I think it's 100% affected this team. Now, I know there's going to be people out there that say, well, every game is different. Every game, it's a separate occasion. And there was tons of time. And it's like, yes, those are all true things. But you know what else is true? Morale. That was a game that I felt like, and I'm sure the players feel relatively similar, Iowa State should have won that game. And you come away with just an absolute ripper. Like, how... I'm going to call it a heave. I know people don't want me calling it a heave, but an absolute heave, a Hail Mary from Arizona, and they get to stay in it, and then they come away with the win. Where do you find yourself? Then you're coming back home, and then all of a sudden you lose the streak. You lose the streak at home to Kansas State. And you're like, holy, what? Who are we? What's going on here? Weren't we just the number 2 team in the nation? Just like what? Where's Milan? Oh, he's not in. Like, that's how this feels. Like, it's like confusion almost. So the guys need to see a win. What needs to happen? A win of something. Have them go in and shoot 1,000 shots from the block and watch them all go. I don't know what. I'm not the coach here, but we need to find something. Second thing. This is a bit of a vibe change up, a little bit of a rejuicing, a rejuvenation. Milan coming back is going to be huge. And I think that's undeniable. Could he be back for UCF? That's a week from now. I'm going to say maybe, but I'm going to say that very apprehensively. I would look more towards Cincinnati and even potentially Colorado. And I'd rather him come back feeling very solid than shaky. And the question is, how does he affect this team? Well, on the stat sheet, Milan are averaging about 10 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, about an assist. From 3, he's shooting 45%. Now, he is shooting the highest percentage on the team right now, but he also has 7 less games than Jones, Gilbert, Jefferson, Lipsy, Jackson, Heisey, Chatfield, right? So smaller sample size. I will say that. Where's his number here? He's attempted 3-point attempts 70, 31 of 70 on the year. So less than, it's like half basically of Curtis Jones. So how much does he bring back to the team? I don't know if he brings it back so much as in the aspect of actual raw numbers as he does in presence, if you will. What does he do for spacing? What does he do for forcing the opponent to respect the 3-point line and allowing Iowa State to be able to penetrate or draw basically up plays? How can they get the ball to the inside to Jefferson and Jackson? How is that possible? Well, if we're able to draw them out towards the outside with Milan as a little bit of a threat, like that's a good way to do that. And that's a good segue into what else does this team need to do? Figure something out offensively. Defensively, we were doing okay. Everything seemed to be under control for a little bit there. To start the Big 12 slate, you hold Baylor to 55, Utah to 59. Then Kansas things got kind of crazy. Texas Tech, excuse me, and then you hold Kansas to 57. And you still actually hold West Virginia to 64. Granted, you only scored 57, and then the UCF game was kind of the UCF game. Like defensively, I'm not as concerned. I am not as concerned. Offensively, though, we have question marks all over. And I'm not going to even pretend like I know what the answer would be. But you can't tell me that this isn't a situation where we need to at least look, open the book, revisit some film, evaluate, like maybe we run a few tests. I don't know. This is absolutely a situation where we need to be, let's try a few things here. Let's not just keep running the same style, if you will. Especially now, in these next few games before Milan gets back. That's TCU for sure on Saturday, and then UCF, and then when does he come back? Maybe Cincinnati, maybe UCF, maybe Colorado, somewhere in that week. So you have at least one more game, and you, I think, have to win against TCU. Absolutely have to. Absolutely have to. Is this team a tournament team? Well, what do you have the rest of the year? TCU on the road to UCF, home Cincinnati, home Colorado. That'll be nice. Two games in a row at home. Then you go on the road to Houston and Oklahoma State. Now, obviously, that Houston game going to be massive. Then you face Arizona yet again at home. BYU, Kansas State. Kansas State on the road. Of those, you can really only lose like one more. Milan coming back into the system. I don't know. That's just my opinion. You could probably lose two. But if you lose to Houston, Arizona, and Kansas State, where do you find yourself at mentally as that team? Where do you see yourself at? I mean, like realistically here, you beat a 25 Baylor and a 9 Kansas at home. If that's the case. And then a Marquette way forever ago. Like that's tough. If you can only beat then TCU, UCF, Cincy, Colorado, all unranked. Colorado for the third time this year, which that's going to be tough. Then you lose to Houston, then you lose to Arizona, and Kansas State won't be ranked, but you couldn't beat them after they kind of wrecked you after your Arizona game. Like, where's that team going to be at mentally? You can only lose maybe one of those, in my opinion. Maybe you drop UCF, or maybe you drop Cincinnati, because you're still getting back Milan. We're figuring that out that right away. But then if you get on that, we need to finish this thing strong. We are at that point now. Maybe we win all 3 of these. This is a hypothetical. You win all 3 of the last 3 games. Milan comes back. Maybe you drop one there. You drop one to Houston. And I don't know, outside of that, I wouldn't want to drop many more, but you potentially lose one to Arizona or whatever, or on the road at Kansas State. And it's like, okay, it's not the end of the world, but we do need to clean some things up. No. That's not the situation we're in. I'm very sorry to tell you this. No, we need to pretty much turn it on full gas. You know how like when you turn the oven on and if you pass the ignition, you just go all the way to the right, and this is probably a fire hazard, so I'm not saying to do this, but you turn it all the way and you can hear the gas like tss, like that's what we need to be doing, obviously, but hitting the ignition. So we need it, and then just the of the fire. We just need to light that under everyone's, like we need to be going. This is no longer mess around time and, oh, we feel bad. Like, can anybody believe that loss to Arizona? Oh, no. We are past that. We got to go. So in conclusion, is this team a tournament team? As it sits now, maybe we're out of 32 loss. Maybe a Sweet 16 berth if we get a good draw. Can they be a Final Four team? Yes. Can they be a national championship team? That I'd be a little surprised based on what I've seen. But hey, Milan coming back could be a big deal. Could be a very big deal. All right, that's going to do it for today. But man, that one kind of stunk. That Kansas one. I mean, I'm not saying like playing on the road at Kansas is tough, but man, are you kidding me? 17 and the way they had the mojo the whole way through to that game. We'll play TCU on Saturday. We'll talk more about that this week, so don't go anywhere. Be sure to subscribe if you're not, so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. And until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.